Hey everybody, I am Jerry Shank and with me, Jamie Naill, and it's Crabcakes and Baseball. Jamie, we are going to get right into it because we got a lot of stuff to talk about and not enough time to do it. We're going to be talking private school rankings and private school baseball in the state of Maryland. It's always very, very competitive, a lot of good baseball that goes on. And this week, actually last week, we just released our Power 10, our private school power rankings came out online on prepbaseballreport.com/Maryland. You can make your way to the site to see it. I'm going to actually go through it real quickly. At the top spot, we have Archbishop Spalding. We have Georgetown Prep at number 2. John Carroll takes the third spot. At 4, we have St. Maria Goretti. And then at number 5, we have Gilman. Number 6, Calvert Hall. Number 7, Good Counsel. Number 8, DeMatha. Number 9, Archbishop Curley. And rounding out our top 10 is Loyola Blakefield. Um, we got 10 teams, got a top 10. You got 6 of them in the MIAA. So that's why we're going to also take a little bit of time during this podcast to talk specifically MIAA and MIAA preview. We'll wrap it all up with the WCAC preview and just recap the stories that have gone out online. But Jamie, let's get right into this. At number 1 in our private school rankings, we got Archbishop Spalding. They're the top team in Maryland. They are highly ranked. We've got them ranked number 7 in the region, in the Mid-Atlantic region on prepbaseballreport.com. Jamie, my first question to you, besides how are you doing, is why is this team so good?
Well, to answer the first question, Jerry, I'm doing very well. High school baseball is rolling, so I'm doing great. So Spalding, why they're good, it comes down to the pitching. They have a three-headed monster there with Parker Thomas, Jake Yeager, and Nathan Wines with a couple guys behind them. So the pitching is going to lead them this year with a slew of offensive bats. Ethan McNally, Jack McNally, Parker Thomas can obviously swing it as well with some younger guys up the middle. So um, that's what makes Spalding good is the pitching and then the balance and the depth that they have offensively.
Yeah, it's really crazy to believe that. I mean, this was our top team in Maryland finishing the season last year, and they really didn't lose much. What I believe it was Estes graduated in the middle, and everybody just got a year stronger.
Mhm.
I mean, this they're poised to have a really good season. So leading into that, Jamie, who is your favorite player on this squad that's returning?
Yeah, and just want to put it out there that they did lose Eddie Sargent as well. That
That's
started
right.
at
I forgot about Eddie.
MIAA the championship game. So they did lose Sargent, but they bring back those three arms. My favorite guy coming back is Parker Thomas. With the two-way in high school, and we don't know exactly what he's going to do at East Carolina. Is he going to two-way? The arm is obviously very special, but you're going to see Parker play some shortstop this year for Spalding. To give a little bit of positional versatility there. But that is a special, special arm. He's a high 80s into the 90s arm. He can really spin it. So Parker is a guy that I'm really looking forward to going out and seeing again, and that's my top guy for Spalding this year.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to be a lot of fun this year, and we've got them. Like I said, they were ranked 7th in our region so far. It's got all the makings to be a really special team this year for Spalding, and there's a lot of potential that PBR this year. We released our national high school team rankings. Spalding made it in the top 10 in the region, but there's a very good chance that this squad has the potential to break into that top 25 in the country. Jamie, I just want to ask you real quick. I mean, what do you see? What do you see that they're doing that they could get into this rankings?
Yeah, I mean, it's the depth. Honestly, it's the depth that they have, and with those three arms at the top, and you have Sharman as well that can spin it on the bump, and he throws a lot of strikes. It's the depth on the bump with enough offense there to win you games in tight ball games. So if they continue to win and they start out hot this year, I think the sky's the limit for them, and I think you will see them bust into the national rankings.
Yeah, and it's early off too. I believe early in the year they're heading out to Las Vegas playing in
Hmm.
the Bishop Gorman tournament. I believe that's the right school. I didn't write it down before we got into it, but yeah, I mean that could be a huge statement for the state of Maryland as well. So not to put too much pressure on your back, but I guess I just did by saying that. But there's a lot of potential right there to really put Maryland baseball on the map, and I think they do well. I think they could really run into it. So Spalding is our number one team that we've got. At number two, let's go down to Montgomery County in Bethesda. We've got Georgetown Prep at number two. And I'm going to start with the same question that I asked you about Spalding first. What makes Georgetown Prep so good?
Yeah, and it's kind of the same as Spalding. It's Georgetown Prep's pitching. You have Tommy Rodon, you have Ryan Maxey, which are two-way guys, and then you have two-way guys in Andrew Duncan and Weiss, there that they can both swing it. They can all swing it, but they can also really spin it on the bump and throw strikes, and you're seeing velo out of all of them. So I think there's depth on both sides of the ball. I think it's very comparable with Spalding. But Georgetown Preps, the offensive prowess with their depth on the mound is something to watch, and it's very very intriguing to see this year.
Yeah, and this year they start in our regional rankings. They start at number nine, and like you were just saying too, it's really amazing how Spalding does it as well. But Prep every year they just have such a great mix of that senior talent and then the young talent. You mentioned Austin Weiss, a 25 recent Maryland commit, ton of potential there. Um, and then Duncan as well, Andrew Duncan, I believe he's a 24, 25,
25 as well. Yeah.
25. I mean, just really, really good young talent. So I'm going to bring my next question to you. Who's your favorite player returning?
Yeah, there's a ton of guys that I love on this team. Tommy Rodon's probably my favorite. The offensive prowess, and with him on the bump as well. I mean, it's a true two-way. UVA commit. Like I said, there's a lot of guys that I really like on this team, but Tommy Rodon, with the ability to really impact the game and change the game on both sides of the ball, that's what I really, really love about him.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you watch a guy at the plate get his absolute money's worth every
Hmm.
time he decides to swing the bat, you got to love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love watching him take BP. There is nothing but intent and purpose with every swing. Ton of fun to watch. And then also, I mean, he can deal on the mound too. So that's a pretty good answer on that one. Now, last thing about Georgetown Prep. We just talked about Spalding, their potential in the national ranks. Prep, the IAC, for all intents and purposes, not quite as deep of a conference as like the MIAA, but they do play a very tough beginning schedule. Do you think if they start out hot, do you think there's potential there that they might be able to crack into that national scheme, the national ranks?
Yeah, I definitely do, and I think it's going to come down to consistency, and it's going to come down to the success that these younger guys have, like Duncan and Weiss, and will the depth really come, you know, to the forefront and play into Georgetown Prep's favor? Do I think that they will crack those rankings? I think there's definitely a shot there, just because of the depth and how deep they are on both sides of the ball. So, quick answer is yes, Jerry.
So yeah, I mean, and we're not trying to put any pressure on these teams. Please don't. We don't want anybody to feel that way. We just feel like this is really every year we've got good teams that continue to develop, and this year Spalding and Georgetown Prep have put together two really good teams. And one thing that I have noticed, and I know Jamie, me and you, we talk about this all the time, and I'm going off kilter a little bit, but it's how much stronger baseball in Maryland is continuing to grow. It's getting stronger and stronger, deeper and deeper, better and better. And so I think eventually we are going to get this state into the national scene a little bit more as we continue to go there. So that's the only reason I wanted to bring that up, because I think these are two prime candidates. A lot of our teams that are also in the power rankings, even in the power 25, they have that potential as well. But we wanted to bring this up with our top two ranked teams in our power 10 rankings. So guys, make sure you go to prepbaseballreport.com/Maryland. You check out the preview. The Power 10 rankings are out. And so let's move on to our next topic, and let's talk the MIAA. Preview story at this time is going to be up online by the time this podcast is out. You guys will see everything. We've got a full breakdown of each team. We've got an all conference team. We've got our picks, pitcher of the year, player of the year. We're going to be talking about some of that today. And now, Jamie, we've already talked about Spalding. They're the top team. But what I want to throw at you right now, pick two other teams who you think could win the MIAA this year.
Yeah, I think John Carroll's there, and obviously we've talked a lot about them on these previous podcasts. But that offensive onslaught that they have, and the potential that they have at the plate to put up a ton of runs is obviously eye-opening, and it's intriguing to watch this year. So I think if that offense can really string together some hits and really put up some runs on the board, I think that's going to be an interesting team to watch. And I think they can match up with Spalding's pitching, um, on an offensive side of the ball. So I think John Carroll can be there, as well as Gilman. I'm a huge fan of Gilman. You have Peyton Miller there now as the ace at Gilman. You have some depth on the bump there as well. Um, some kind of under the radar guys on the offensive side that I think could put up some runs. So I like Gilman. I like how balanced they are. So I'm going with John Carroll and Gilman with a couple other teams that can make some noise this year throughout the MIAA.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Again, we're thinking Spalding's at the top. They're going to be kind of setting the standard. The other ones are going to be chasing, but there's definitely some good teams that are going to be going after them. All right, so now let's go to our next topic. We want to talk preseason. Who's the MIA Player of the Year? Ton of pressure thrown at you right now, Jamie. But who do you think is it going to be this year?
Yeah, I'm going with Frank Adamski out of John Carroll, Coastal Carolina commit. I love what he does on both sides of the ball. I love him defensively, as well as obviously we know the bat plays. He has gap to gap power. Love Adamski. He's a high average guy, high power numbers. So I'm going with Frank Adamski as my player of the year.
Just a great dude too. I know when he came down to our pro case, just a really great guy. A lot of fun just talking with him at that event. All right, so now let's move on to the next one. We've done our player of the year. We got Frank Adamski. Now let's go to the pitcher of the year. What do you got?
Yeah, I got Parker Thomas. I got Parker Thomas out of Spalding, East Carolina commit. I I love his moxie, kind of on the bump. That uber confidence almost. He goes out there and he thinks he could strike out everybody. There's a ton of confidence there. He can really spin it. He fills up the zone. Obviously the velo is there. So I'm going Parker Thomas as my pitcher of the year.
Not a bad choice at all. Just a stud. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about in our MIA preview here, players to watch on the uncommitted side. So, Jamie, two players that are uncommitted in the conference that you would recommend to get out and watch.
Yeah, so first one I'm going to stay with Spalding, and I'm going to go with Jack McNally. It's Ethan McNally's younger brother. Jack McNally is a stud, little undersized, but there's positional versatility there. He can really swing it. He can really, he can really play behind the plate as well. The footwork is quick. The arm strength is there. So I think if you can see McNally get enough ABs this year, which I think will happen because of the positional versatility, that's a name that you should definitely get out and watch, and that's going to become a household name throughout the spring season this year. And then my other one is going to be Casey Carpenter, third baseman out of John Carroll. The frame is getting real strong. You know the power is there, the barrel awareness is there. Offensively, he's extremely good, and defensively he can really pick it. So I'm going with those two, with Jack McNally and Casey Carpenter as two uncommitted guys to watch this year.
There you have it. There you have it. Now, MIA preview again, it's going to be up online. You'll see a full breakdown. We'll have it on prepbaseballreport.com/Maryland. So we didn't mention, we didn't see it. Make sure you check out the story because there's a lot of great info that's going to be going up on there. All right. So now the last thing that we're going to talk about, we got the WCAC. WCAC, one of the more unique conferences around with IAC as well as they're kind of a cross state and District of Columbia conference. WCAC, we've got four schools that are in it. The story is up online, the preview. You see all the returners, you see kind of the key losses, guys that they're replacing. I just want to take a few minutes and talk with you about it. You know, talking from the Virginia side for a second, more than likely your top two contenders this year in the WCAC is going to be St. John's and Gonzaga. Gonzaga took the title from St. John's for the first time in a long time last year, but St. John's was in the championship game again. It's more than likely going to be another battle between those two deep and talented teams. They're really, really quality squads. But there are some good teams in the state of Maryland in that WCAC. And do we think this is the year that we can get a Maryland team back on the title? Jamie.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. Obviously, what you said about St. John's and Gonzaga is true, and they're very deep, very talented. I think there's two teams out of the WCAC in Maryland that can make a run. That I think are going to open some people's eyes this year. One being DeMatha Catholic. I think they're deep on the offensive side of the ball. They have power in the middle of the lineup. They have speed as well. And I think they're very good defensively. So I think it's a sound ball team, ball club. So I like DeMatha. I also like good counsel as well. You have Aiden Smith as their ace, kind of their horse. If he can kind of regain his form and be that ace for good counsel with Jake Plaint and other arms behind him, I think you're going to see good counsel if they can score a little bit and stay consistent on the offensive side. I think you can see good counsel and DeMatha kind of make a run this year.
Yeah, yeah, and talking about both of those teams. I mean, we were talking about Dematha before we started the show, and we really just felt like, hey, Coach Miller's really starting to put the pieces together back at Dematha. It's a good core that's going. It's just who's going to step up and kind of take that next step. Is it the Coombs kid? Is the Coombs kid? He has potential to do it. There's a lot of kids who have that potential to do it. That's just the first one that popped into my mind as a young buck. And then with good counsel as well. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. If Aiden Smith can, really, he's got such a high ceiling, ton of reason to like him. I think the sky's the limit for that young man, and if it can all click together, maybe by the end of the spring, maybe when he's at West Virginia, I think there's a bright future ahead for that young man.
Mhm.
But that's going to do it for today. I want to thank Jamie. Thank you very much. I'm glad we went back and forth. We got to talk a little private school baseball, really getting close to the season. I mean, you got to catch a game today. You're ready to go, right? We're ready to get
Yeah,
rolling.
yeah. There's no doubt, no doubt. I got to see Georgetown Prep in good counsel tonight, man. So I'm rolling now 7 days a week. So sleep is for the weary. I won't be sleeping too much for the next 3 months.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Um, so yeah, thanks very much for joining me tonight. I know it's kind of late when we're doing this episode, but there's a ton of good stuff that's on our site, people. So make sure you're getting on. You're going to prepbaseballreport.com/Maryland. You're checking us out. You're checking out all of our previews. Our Power 25 is coming up next week. Jamie, we're probably going to be talking the public side. We're going to be going on onto that game, talking about some of the public schools preview as well. But for Jamie Naill, I'm Jerry Shank. It's Crabcakes and Baseball. It's what PBR Maryland does.